Once you get outside the boundaries of that and you can look in from a perspective here, you realize that you were never giving anything up. Welcome back to another video, gentlemen. My name is Joseph from Masculine Theory, and in this video, what I thought would be really resourceful is to go through some of the failures that I have experienced on this journey of semen retention, NoFap, and kind of reverse engineer my success, because I find myself coming to the point where the only reason where pornography enters my mind is when I'm trying to teach or inform you guys and give my insights on how to actually mitigate its place in your life. So if it weren't for my brand and the seemingly popular content, then it really would have no bearing on my life whatsoever. I want it, and I want you to get to that point also. So let's go over to the whiteboard and start the video. So first and foremost, semen retention, where I went wrong with sexual energy. So the first step is rationalizing yourself out of it. Now, this is something that, despite how many videos that you've watched, perhaps you've watched a number of videos on, why this debilitating habit is having such a pernicious effect on your life, or it might be that you're on, doom scrolling the Reddit forums about, semen retention powers and NoFap benefits and healing your nervous system. And, despite all this information about what an insidious habit pornography is and how many benefits and pleasures and joys you can reap out of retaining your sexual energy, still, you find yourself after that third or fourth day rationalizing yourself out of it. You will be having thoughts like, oh, I need pornography to relax. I've had a stressful day. I just need to, get past today, and then tomorrow I'll start up again. Or everybody does it. That's a common one that a lot of men will tell themselves, is that my friends do it. They talk about it and joke about it at the pub, about their favorite porn star, whatever the case may be, and everybody does it. I have nothing to feel guilty or ashamed about. So I'm kind of going to go through these one by one and show you how this particular train of thought is absolutely illogical. So first and foremost, relapses cause more stress. So this idea that you need this particular trope to relax in your life is actually having a negative effect. And the more and more mental capacity it takes up in your mind, the more and more you realize that it's associated with those negative emotions: apathy, guilt, shame, depression. So once you kind of go through this mental dialogue, you need it to relax, and you actually find that it causes you more guilt. It fails to have a place in your rationalization. Secondly, emotionally compromised controllers. So when we think about having a bad day or being in stressful environments that cause us to relapse and go back to that trope that is pornography, 99% of the time it becomes of a place of emotional instability, because your boss said something bad to you at work, or maybe your girlfriend was upset with you, or you had a bad conversation with your friend or your family member. And those negative emotions, which are low in energy, are usually tied to the ones that will cause you to relapse. So you need to exercise a certain amount of emotional control first in order to master it. What I discuss in my course, Sexual Energy Mastery, is that that is the root of your problems there. And once you begin to talk with your body on an emotional level and understand the negative emotions that are causing yourself to relapse, and then come to the actualization that you're not fear, you're not anger, you're not stress, you're not depression, you're not apathy, but you're the witness of your emotions, so you have that detachment from them, then you can be in the driver's seat, or whether you let anger, guilt, shame run you, or you, the witness, can be in control of those emotions. So having a bad day and being the victim of your emotions really should have no bearing on the decisions that you make next. And then we have everybody does it. You don't know that. And do you want to be like everybody? So the classic one, everybody watches pornography, is one, how could you know that in the first place? And also, do you really want to be like everybody else? Do you want to be like you might want to be like your friends, but if you're being transparent about your aspirations and where you want to go in the future, which is hopefully in an upwards trajectory, you would come to the understanding that you don't really want to be like everybody else. You want to stand alone. You want to have some kind of moral guiding principles in your life that allow you to move past the concern of pornography in your life. So this really is no excuse. So we've kind of gone through the major three rationalizations there, which will undo this process of, semen retention, nofap, and sexual energy conservation. And ultimately, all these things come from a point of being brainwashed. Now, this is the reason, is that on some level, the reason why you're relapsing is that you believe that you're trying to give something up, that there is something pleasurable in your life that you're detaching or removing from your life. And this is so backwards, it's almost laughable. And we'll get onto that in just a moment. So once we've got out of rationalizing ourselves out of it, here comes the difference between sexual suppression and sexual integration. Now, this was a big lesson for me, because once I got past the idea of being brainwashed, I then had to know the difference between repressing that energy, suppressing that energy, and actually integrating it into my lifestyle. And here are the typical symptoms that people will have with respects to suppression or integration. So counting days. Counting days comes from a place of scarcity and fear, that you're waiting to get a notch on your day, another day under your belt of freedom from this particular trope. And if you're coming from the place of fear and scarcity and desire for the next day, then ultimately this still has a hold on you. And that is still allowing, this pornographic energy is allowing itself to dictate how you're interacting throughout your day. And this is a big step. Waiting for superpowers as well. So you've been on the Reddit forums and you've heard the stories, and some of the stuff I do preach on my channel as well. You have this idea that once you get rid of this trope in your life, that you'll get hyper masculine characteristics, that you'll have more energy. Female attraction is another big one, and those will be the thing that are the motivating factor behind you actually getting rid of this. You have to move past it, guys, and the benefits are real, but if your rationality is for those superpowers, then you'll never ever get them. It's a little bit of a paradox. So you have to first come to the resolution that you no longer want to be a man who is chained down to these tropes of scantily clad women and soft pornographic material in modern Western society. Once you move past that and realize that there'll be a place in your future where you're no longer associated with viewing that kind of material, that will be the clencher for it. It's not for any other motivation other than the fact of the man of the principles of the man that you want to become. And that is so critical to understand. And nofap first, not semen retention. So one really useful and practical piece of advice I would give is that if you haven't first gotten rid of the role of pornography in your life, then you'll find it very, very difficult to practice semen retention. And this kind of ties into this idea of superpowers because they're more associated with SR. So what you want to do first of all, gentlemen, is just get rid of the pornography in your life. Just focus on that first if you're struggling with relapses. And once you get past this brainwashing, then you can focus on maybe something because it is more advanced, semen retention. It certainly isn't without its difficulties. So we mentioned here, brainwash, just focus about quitting pornography first. Don't wait to become superhuman, rejoice you already are. So there's this classic idea that, semen retention will make you superhuman. That isn't true. You are superhuman, but pornography is taxing your system, is making you weaker, is making you less of what you really are. You just need to get rid of this material and actualize and affirm the powers that you already have. So don't wait for 30 days until you experience XYZ. You can experience it now. You can experience it right now, only when you realize that there is nothing to give up. There is nothing to give up and there is everything to gain. It's so simple, but it's tied in with so much emotional connotations that you believe that you're giving something up. And maybe I can kind of describe this in a different way. So if I just kind of rub out this point here. So here's the principle here, is that the rationality of an addict is confined within these kind of parameters of, pleasure. Oh, I'm giving up something beneficial in my life, like I'm giving up chocolate or, ice cream. But once you get outside the boundaries of that and you can look in from a perspective here, you realize that you were never giving anything up. So the challenge for yourself is to move outside the confines of believing that there is something negative associated with giving it up, and then you'll be outside of the clutches of it. And then last but not least, gentlemen, we have sexual energy transmutation and transformation, which is essentially the same thing here. But the driving car analogy is the one that we'll go through here, just to make things very, very simple, is that when you're starting to integrate your sexual energy, it's like realize that the car you were driving at, that you previously perceived could only go 60 miles an hour, can now go 100 miles an hour. But those who are repressing their energy and not utilizing this are still driving at 60 miles an hour when you have the capacity for so much more. So the question is, how fast will you drive? Are you actually using the faculties that are given to you by God himself, your divine creative energy? Are you using them? When you're thinking about relapsing, these are the moments for actions. These are the moment where that energy is becoming stale and stagnant, and it's an opportunity for you not to be fearful that, oh, this is going to manifest itself into some kind of sexual energy relapse, but it can actually be an avenue for transmutation. So I've said in the previous video before, look forward to those urges, because it's a symptom of your very virility, of the power that resides inside of you. And just a quick tip here, motion creates emotion. So, if you're sitting in the seat of fear and, maybe shame about having these kinds of thoughts, is that you have to get into your body and out of your head. And the only way you can do that is with movement. So the most simple transmutative avenue, exercise, is physical exercises. Getting up from your chair, which is why these these thoughts are manifesting themselves, and going for a walk, going for a run, going to the gym, doing some calisthenics, doing some push-ups, doing some body squats, doing some pull-ups. There's so much opportunity for you to move through these constructive avenues rather than the degenerative ones. And this takes a little bit of time, because our body's used to going through the path of least resistance and going through those kind of slippery slopes of the previous ways we used to deal with having that particular energy. But if you just have the presence of mind to go through the rationality of brainwashing, that again, you're not giving anything up here and you've got everything to gain, and then you can integrate it rather than sitting in the seat of pleasure, and then using the motion here, that's how you get to a position where it has no bearing on your life now, and your body is working for you instead of working against you. So gentlemen, I hope this kind of lecture was resourceful and you found some benefits and some new insights. And the critical lesson here is, you're not giving anything up. There's nothing to give up. And once you actualize that you're dumping a toxin instead of a pleasure, that's where the magic starts to happen. So guys, I really hope you found this resourceful, and if you subscribe to anything of which I've said, you can subscribe to me, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon. Take care.